Simon was able to illustrate just how much of this island is now underwater.
From a cursed village in Peru where residents only live to be 35 years old, to this remote island that recently emerged in the middle of nowhere, our planet is filled with unexplored wonderlands and forgotten places isolated from the rest of the world. What secrets lie in these secluded spots cut off from civilization? How do the people who live here even survive? Join us as we embark on a journey to some of the most inaccessible and isolated places on Earth. Hang Sundom Cave. A trip to the Sundom Cave of central Vietnam is the adventure of a lifetime. Located in the heart of the Phong Nha, Ki Bang National Park in the Quang Binh province, Hang Sundom is an isolated cave, far from any trace of modern civilization, with a mystical feel and a history rooted in intrigue. Within this cave is a whole new world very few people know about. A world that went undisturbed for millions of years until a local farmer named Ho Khan stumbled upon it in 1990. As soon as news of its discovery spread far and wide, brave explorers and scientists risked life and limb to take an expedition to the site. When they got there, they found the largest cave in the world stretching for 3 miles and reaching a height of 600 feet. To put the size into perspective, there's enough space for a Boeing 747 to fly through and even build a skyscraper. Beyond its impressive size, though, Sundom Cave is also home to a diverse ecosystem that you won't find anywhere else in the world. We're talking new species of fishes, millipedes, woodlice, spiders, and scorpions with no eyes and transparent bodies, as a way of adapting to the blinding darkness of the colossal cave. The cave also has massive collapsed ceilings, which open up to the sky like an interdimensional portal. There are also several waterfalls, streams, and a large underground river stretching for over 11 miles. However, before you pack your bags and head out to this fantasy world, you should know the journey is not for the faint of heart. Tourists have to endure 2 days of intense trekking and terrifying river crossings while trying to survive the unpredictable jungle. But in spite of the remote location, the beauty of this place continues to draw over 1,000 tourists every year, who travel to take epic pictures, be one with nature, and feast their eyes on a natural wonder. Danakil Depression. How about a trip to one of the hottest and harshest places on the planet? This is the Danakil Depression, known as one of the most alien places on Earth. In the words of British explorer Wilfred Thesiger, this place is a veritable land of death, where nothing can survive except microbes that thrive in toxicity. The entire landscape is surrounded by sulfurous hot springs, pools of acid, steaming fissures, and salt mountains. Although it may look like something out of a science fiction movie, it's actually very real. The average temperature here is around 34 degrees Celsius, making the entire condition even more extreme. It's also the lowest part of the Earth, situated over 400 feet below sea level. But even with the extreme conditions, dozens of determined explorers risk the exposure to dangerous chemicals, either to study the site, mine the salt, or just see the sights. As they have done for centuries, salt miners travel hours on end, using camel caravans to bear the salt slabs they extract from the flat pans around Lake Afar. In this place, salt is like gold, and these men risk life and limb to grab hold of the precious mineral. Scientists also come here to explore and study several scientific concepts ranging from plate tectonics to astrobiology. An example was in 2016, when a group of researchers from the University of Bologna, Italy, traveled to the site to study whether some microbes could withstand the scorching, inhospitable conditions of the Danakil Depression. This would help determine the possibility of life surviving on other planets like Mars. Then there are those who come here for the sights, the travelers who are drawn to the stench and horrible conditions of this place. These extreme tourists come here to witness the horrific beauty that you can't see elsewhere, and it's become quite the tourist attraction in recent times. Devon Island, located in the Baffin Bay of northern Canada, is one of the most remote spots on the planet. Devon Island. This massive expanse of land is located so far away from civilization that it has earned a reputation as the largest uninhabited island in the world. stretching for 300 miles in length and 80 to 100 miles in width. Very few plants grow here thanks to the short growing season of only about 40 to 55 days in the entire year, and of course the constant low temperature that plunges the island into an endless cycle of snow and ice. Even in the summer, temperatures here swing between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, and in the winter months, the bitter cold at minus 50 degrees Celsius discourages any would-be loner who might want to make this place a home. But even though humans don't live here, other animals do, like the small population of musk oxen that can be spotted in certain places on the island, as well as a few small mammals and birds. But the most interesting part of this island is a 14-mile-wide Houghton crater, an otherworldly landscape that bears a striking semblance to the Martian surface. This is one of the few things that attracts people to this place, as it is the perfect place to simulate life on Mars. So scientists troop here to test rovers, spacesuits, drills, and other objects that will be used in our future missions to the Red Planet. Matuo County. The Matuo County in Ningxi Prefecture, Tibet is like a video game map come to life. Imagine a place that can only be accessed by crossing rugged mountains, surviving harsh, icy paths, and wading through treacherous waters. This is the place where the line between fiction and reality becomes blurry. See, for many years, the only way to get in or out of this county, also known as Medog, was through the 13,800-foot-tall Doxiongla Pass, a place where the snow never ends and the air is always thin. Because of these conditions, many of the people who live in the 7 townships and 60 villages that make up this county don't ever go outside, nor do the outsiders ever visit. For decades, this place remained sealed from the world as the people learned to grow their own food and thrive in solitude. But in 2013, the government finally unveiled the first road leading into the county, the Paimo Highway, ending its history as China's last unreached territory. Now, food supplies and other essentials can easily be transported in and out of the county, and more tourists can access the enticing landscape of Medog. But this is not the only remote place in Tristan Duncan. Far away in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean, there you will find a group of remote volcanic islands known collectively as Tristan Duncan. This archipelago consists of 4 islands, which includes the uninhabited Nightingale Islands, the wildlife reserves of Inaccessible Island, Gauf Island, and the main island in the group, Tristan Duncan. Together, these territories are known as the most remote archipelago in the world, as they are all situated thousands of miles away from land. To get to the nearest civilization, you will either have to travel 1,750 miles to South Africa or 2,080 miles to South America. But even with the remote location, a couple of ragtag men and women have called this place home for decades. The first person to settle permanently on this island was a man named Jonathan Lambert from Massachusetts. He came to the island in December 1810. Declaring the property his own and renaming it the Islands of Refreshment. However, his reign only lasted 2 years, and he died in 1812. 4 years later, in 1816, the United Kingdom formally annexed the islands as its colony, and it still remains so till today. A small settlement known as the Edinburgh of the Seven Seas soon emerged at the base of the volcano. As the years flew by, the population grew to around 200 people before everyone was forced to leave in 1961, following the massive eruption of an active volcano on the island known as Queen Mary's Peak. Most of the families would later return in 1963 after the whole situation died down, and since then, Tristan Duncan has never been fully deserted. Today, about 300 people presently call the remote paradise home. To get in and out of Tristan Duncan, these residents rely on boats, a trip that usually takes nearly 1 week to complete, so they mostly try to grow their own food and livestock, while also feeding on the fishes and wildlife that the ocean and the island provide. Ceri Island. On November 14, 1963, a new island emerged from the sea following a massive volcanic eruption. This is Ceri Island, a dark and desolate place located 20 miles off the southern coast of Iceland. Over the course of 3.5 years, an undersea volcanic eruption gradually transformed into this newly born island, which has confirmed the scientific hypothesis on the creation and development of our planet. The first person to witness the emergence of this island was a cook aboard a trawler known as Isleifur II. Looking out as the ship passed by, the cook spotted a column of dark smoke rising from the surface of the sea. At first, the captain thought a boat was on fire, but as they peered closer to investigate, they found themselves witnessing the birth of an island. By 1965, a scientific outpost had been set up on the island, and the government declared the island a natural reserve. This way, scientists will be able to observe the evolution of life from the organic material contained in the magma that formed the island. It didn't take long for microorganisms to emerge, and within a few years, plants were scattered on the beaches. Soon, birds started frequenting the island, bringing seeds from other islands with them, and so new species of plants began to emerge. As of 2009, at least 15 bird species breed on Ceri Island, and today there are over 69 plant species found in the area. But birds aren't the only species lounging on this new spot. Gray and harbor seals now also breed on the island, and their presence has attracted orcas, their main predators, to the surrounding waters. Below the waves, marine life is also thriving, with algae-covered rocks in the shallows, along with invertebrates like starfish and limpets. La Rinconada. Travel with us to the majestic Peruvian Andean glacier, where an old mining settlement known as La Rinconada has been sitting for years. Some people call it the Devil's Paradise, and others call it the hellish place on the planet, but none of these monikers can truly capture the extreme conditions of this place. La Rinconada sits at 16,732 feet above sea level, making it the highest settlement on Earth. Isolated from the rest of the world, the 16,000 people who live here endure unbreathable air, saturated with poisonous gases like mercury and cyanide. But that's not all. The only source of drinking water in the city comes from the surrounding lakes, all of which have been contaminated by mercury. Added to that, the settlement also has no waste disposal system, so the people are forced to live among garbage without electricity, healthcare, or even schools. Life expectancy for those living here is set at 30 to 35, and many of them never even make it that far. Lung diseases, respiratory infections, and other deadly diseases claim the lives of hundreds every year. And the big question is, why do they stay? Well, that could be because of the rich gold deposit that made this island famous in the first place. Obviously, this isn't a vacation spot, and most of the people who come here are desperate, out-of-luck individuals who believe they can strike a fortune on the island. Their expectations are sometimes met with little success or total failure, and unfortunately, most of them don't even make it out alive. Pitcairn Islands. Our next stop is the Pitcairn Archipelago, a group of 4 remote islands located in the South Pacific, about midway between Australia and South America. The islands in this archipelago are Pitcairn, Henderson, Ducie, and Ueno, all of which are located miles away from any touch of civilization. Don't be deceived by its alluring beauty. This is one of the loneliest places in the world, with a population of about 62 people. Sadly, that number keeps going down every year. It was 250 years ago when the island was first discovered by a group of mutineers of the HMS Bounty. As the story goes, a group of sailors aboard the ship took the ship in a bloodless coup, but then they had to sail around the Pacific for months, searching for a place to call home. By the time they found the Pitcairn Islands, only 8 of the mutineers were left. They, along with the 6 men and 12 women with them, set up this settlement that has endured for generations. Just like with many of these remote islands, Pitcairn is also a British colony, and it was part of the islands annexed in 1902 to form the last remaining British overseas territory in the Pacific Ocean. As of 1937, about 233 people lived on Pitcairn. But sadly, that number has been dwindling over the years. Over the years, many of the residents have started moving out as they search for more opportunities abroad. In a bid to keep the population from crashing further, the government launched a campaign to attract new residents to the island. The special package included a home and unobstructed access to nature. But that's just all there is to do here. Jobs are basically non-existent, and unless you're a diver or a naturalist, things can get really quiet here fast. As the population continues to go down drastically, experts believe the island will become uninhabited someday soon. North Sentinel Island. Located somewhere in the Indian Ocean on the Bay of Bengal is an island that has been a subject of fascination since the world first found out about its existence. Welcome to North Sentinel Island, a small territory measuring about 23 square miles, which is home to one of the few uncontacted tribes on the planet. These are the Sentinelese people, a Stone Age tribe of indigenous people who have inhabited the island for an estimated 60,000 years. Currently, about 80 to 150 of these tribesmen are spread across the island, and even though the rest of the world may have been transformed into a digital village, Sentinel Island remains an untouched place, free from thousands of years of human society development. These people maintain the hunter-gatherer lifestyle, living in huts and small communities while violently repelling any outsider. Like in 1867, when an Indian merchant shop was forced to land on the island due to terrible weather conditions. As soon as their ship drew close, the Sentinelese tribesmen lined up on the beach, armed with bows and arrows, and they didn't hesitate to attack. Luckily, the crew of the merchant ship never got out of the vessel, and they had to defend themselves using rudimentary weapons until the Royal Navy arrived for a much-needed rescue. While this incident didn't result in a casualty, other adventurers haven't been so lucky. In 1896, an escaped convict was said to have reached the island believing he was finally free, only for him to be found dead with arrows and a slit throat. Then again, in 2018, a 26-year-old American missionary by the name of John Allen Chow embarked on a missionary trip to Sentinel Island. But he was also killed on arrival. Till today, nobody has even properly interacted with the Sentinelese. Nobody knows the language they speak, their culture, or religious beliefs. And quite frankly, it might be for good. To protect the tribe from outsiders, the Indian government declared the site a tribal sanctuary and made it illegal for anyone to set foot on the island. Subscribers pick. Before we go on with the rest of the video, here's our subscribers' pick for today. Observe this mysterious city situated high up in the clouds, a place that challenges the very laws of physics. This cloud city stands on two pillars that rise from the earth into the skies, and several modern buildings can be seen scattered across the landscape. There is no return from here, the most inaccessible and isolated place on earth. But what is this place? Could it be a secret spot where the rich and powerful gather to commune? How was this city built? How do the pillars defy the laws of gravity? And is this city even real? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section down below. Now, let's get back to the video. Cape Melville. Deep within the remote wildlands of northern Australia, there is a place very few have dared to go, a 9-mile-long mountain range known as Cape Melville. This enchanting place is located on the Cape York Peninsula, just south of Papua New Guinea. However, exploring this place is an impossible task. At the base of the mountain, you will find a mosaic of massive, impassable granite stones, which sealed off the island from the rest of the world for millions of years. Historians called it the Lost World, and when scientists finally stepped foot on this captivating site, it was everything they dreamed it would be, and more. Situated on top of this isolated mountain is one of the least explored rainforests on the planet. And when scientists looked deeper into this forest, they discovered 3 new animal species you won't find anywhere else in the world. One of these creatures is the leaf-tailed gecko, also known as Saltuarius eximius. Measuring about 8 inches in length, this previously unidentified species has evolved a heavily camouflaged skin, in addition to very large eyes and long legs. The other creature is a new species of skink identified as Saprosynchus saltus, which also has unusually long limbs for jumping across its rocky environment. Finally, there's the Cophyxilus petrophilus, a new species of boulder frog that's endemic to Cape Melville. It has a yellow-cream back with brown mottling and a brown horizontal bar between its eyes. Each of these creatures have evolved specially adapted forms to ensure their survival in the remote island, and no one knows how many more fascinating species are still hidden deep within the unexplored landscape. Mariana Trench. Speaking of the most remote places in the world, the depth of the ocean is also home to another place of wonder known as the Mariana Trench. Just like Mount Everest is the highest peak on the planet, so is Mariana Trench the deepest part of any ocean in the world. This 1,580-mile-long, crescent-shaped section of the Earth's crust is located in the western Pacific Ocean, and it goes down for 36,070 feet. At this depth, very few things can survive, and humans would turn to jelly in an instant here. Because of the intense pressure in the Mariana Trench, it remained off-limits for scientific studies, until we were able to build robotic explorers and durable submarines that can travel to thousands of feet into the deepest depth of the ocean. And what they saw was quite shocking. While it would have been expected that conditions of the Mariana Trench would make life impossible down there are actually a couple of bizarre creatures that call this place home. But what kind of beastly beings can survive at 30,000 feet beneath the ocean? Well, there's the Mariana snailfish, a transparent creature that looked more like an abomination than a fish. The deep-sea hatchetfish, a small ray-finned fish that'll probably give you nightmares. And the goblin shark, a living fossil that's been around for 125 million years. But the creme de la creme hides in the deepest part of the trench, a place known as the Challenger Deep. This is where you'll find spooky creatures like the barrel-eye fish with a transparent head, the frilled shark with its demon-like teeth, the transparent deep-sea dragonfish, and of course the abominable anglerfish. At this depth, visibility is below zero, and these creatures have evolved specialized organs to help them navigate the terrible darkness. Some use sensors, while others don't even have eyes at all. And it's just the perfect community for nature's most disturbing creatures. The first people to ever reach the bottom of Challenger Deep was scientist Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh, who explored the depths in a deep boat back in 1960. Since then, only 10 other people have ever reached the deepest point in the ocean. Palmerston Island. This thin stretch of land rising out of the South Pacific Ocean is called Palmerston Island, and it's one of the most fascinating places on Earth. Palmerston is part of a group of self-governing island countries known as the Cook Islands. The islands are named after American explorer Captain James Cook, who discovered them. However, out of all the islands, Palmerston is the only one Captain Cook ever set foot on. He first discovered the beautiful island in 1774, although he didn't instantly check it out. He would later return on April 13, 1777, to find the island empty with just a few traces of ancient graves. But who could have buried a body in the middle of nowhere? Could this place have been an ancient settlement that got submerged underwater and then re-emerged? Or how else can we explain the presence of a grave on an island this remote? But that's not even the most intriguing thing about this island. See, as far away as this island is from anywhere, there are people living here permanently. Strangely enough, all of the islanders are descended from an Englishman named William Marsters, who moved here from another of the Cook Islands, accompanied by 3 Polynesian women. Today, 25 people currently live on the island, and they make a living by fishing in their autonomous region. Even though the government of this place is under New Zealand, these descendants were granted full ownership of the island in 1954, and so they live independent of any government or authority. Adak, Alaska. In the southernmost part of the United States, near the border with Russia, is a city frozen in time on the very edge of America. The city sits on an island of the same name, in the Aleutians West Census area in Alaska. As of 2020, only 171 residents still live here, and the population keeps reducing by the minute. Life here is tough, even for those who've been in the city for decades. But the people find solace in the community they form and the bond they share. The city is characterized by persistent overcast skies, moderate temperatures, high winds, and frequent cyclonic storms. Wind speed here can reach up to 120 miles per hour, and during the summer months, the whole place can get submerged in extensive fog forming over the Bering Sea and the North Pacific. The island also played a huge role during the Second World War, allowing the United States and Canada to launch a successful offensive against the Japanese-held islands of Kiska and Attu. After realizing the strategic importance of the island, the United States government established a naval air station in the city, which would later serve as a submarine surveillance center during the Cold War. The island is also prone to natural disasters, and it has been hit by 3 earthquakes in recent memory. One in 1957, another in 1964, and the last one in 1977. In its glory days, the island was inhabited by 6,000 Naval and Coast Guard personnel and their families. However, the base was eventually downsized in 1964, and the city began to fold up. The station was officially closed on March 31, 1997, and the property was eventually acquired by the Aleut Corporation, Villa Los Estrellas. Very few people have set foot on Villa Los Estrellas, and most of them never return. Located in the icy wastelands of Antarctica, this is one of the only 2 civilian settlements on the continent, and the conditions here are as close to hell as you can get. It's a bit larger than the other settlement Esperanza, with a population of over 100 during the summer, and even less once the winter winds kick in. There's no return from here, the most inaccessible and isolated place on Earth. Before anyone can move here permanently, they have to have their appendix removed. No dogs are allowed, and the menu here is limited. However, in spite of the harsh conditions and bitter cold, Villa Los Estrellas is a tourist hotspot. Tons of people flock here every year to embark on snowmobile and ski expeditions, as well as the chance to catch a peek at all of the wonderful South Pole creatures, from the emperor penguins to killer whales. The town has a radio station, TV reception, and believe it or not, even internet access, although it's reserved for the school's 3 computers. The sense of community here makes it all worth it, and most people who live here don't mind the harsh climate. As we wrap up our trip to the most inaccessible and isolated places on Earth, we can't help but wonder what mysterious island currently lies undiscovered in the middle of nowhere. Thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.